The first major storm hit our neighborhood on a Saturday afternoon. Rain poured across the streets while water rushed through the subdivision's drainage system. I thought my backyard would handle it like it always had. Within minutes, muddy water began pouring through the rear drainage area. My backyard started filling faster than the natural drainage could handle. I grabbed my boots and went outside to see where it was coming from. I followed the water upstream and discovered something I had never seen before. A large drainage outlet from the HOA neighborhood was sending runoff directly toward my property. The outlet was positioned above my backyard drainage line. By the time the rain stopped, part of my vegetable garden was underwater. Mud and debris covered the grass and flooded the lower part of my yard. I photographed everything before cleaning a single thing. The HOA president arrived the next morning after seeing my complaint. Instead of apologizing, she said the drainage system was designed to protect the neighborhood. Then she told me the water had to go somewhere. Karen kept insisting it was just ordinary rainwater. I pointed toward the drainage outlet and showed her the concentrated flow coming from the HOA side. She refused to accept responsibility. A week later, another storm arrived. This time I watched the drainage outlet from the beginning. Again, the HOA's runoff poured directly toward my yard. The second flood was even worse. Water spread across the lawn and reached the back steps of my house. My garden was damaged again, and I knew this could not continue. I started keeping a detailed record of every storm. I photographed the drainage outlet, measured the water depth, and recorded the timing of each discharge. I wanted facts instead of arguments. I obtained the neighborhood drainage plans and studied them carefully. The plans showed exactly how stormwater was supposed to move through the community. The actual discharge path did not match what I was seeing on my property. Instead of building anything myself, I contacted a licensed drainage engineer. I showed him the photos, maps, and measurements. He agreed to inspect the entire drainage route. The engineer traced the runoff back toward the HOA's retention system. He discovered that the neighborhood's overflow route was sending excess water toward my property. The evidence was finally clear. The engineer explained that there was a lawful way to redirect the runoff. It would require proper drainage work and compliance with local requirements. I decided to solve the problem legally instead of fighting with the HOA. I submitted the drainage plans through the proper local process. Everything was documented, reviewed, and approved before construction began. The HOA had no idea what I was preparing. A licensed contractor began building the approved drainage route on my property. The channel was designed to safely carry stormwater away from my house and toward an authorized discharge point. Every part of the work followed the approved plan. Karen showed up while the contractors were working. She stared at the new drainage channel and demanded to know what I was doing. I calmly handed her a copy of the approved plan. Karen assumed I was building something against the HOA. Instead, I explained that the drainage project had been professionally designed and approved. She suddenly realized she could not simply order me to stop. Then another storm arrived. For the first time, the new drainage system was tested by heavy rainfall. Water moved through the approved channel instead of flooding my garden. The drainage route carried the excess runoff toward the authorized downstream connection. The water no longer collected against my house. My yard finally stayed dry enough to recover, but the approved route led toward an existing stormwater connection near the HOA clubhouse. The clubhouse sat on slightly lower ground than the surrounding neighborhood. Karen suddenly realized where the water was going. Karen rushed outside as rainwater moved through the clubhouse drainage area. She stared at the water flowing exactly along the approved route. For once, she had no control over where the system naturally carried it. Water reached the low section of the clubhouse lawn and pooled near the patio. The HOA board members rushed outside to inspect the drainage. They finally saw the same water problem they had been sending toward my property. Karen confronted me, accusing me of sending the floodwater back. I reminded her that the drainage system was legally designed and approved. I had not created the water. I had simply stopped absorbing the HOA's runoff. The drainage engineer explained the entire system to the HOA board. The approved route was functioning exactly as designed. The real problem was the neighborhood's original stormwater management. The board members reviewed the engineering documents one by one. They could see the original drainage route and the new approved connection. Nobody could honestly claim the project was unauthorized. The HOA finally had to address its own drainage system. Instead of pushing excess water onto private property, they began discussing upgrades to the neighborhood retention system. The flooding problem had exposed an issue they could no longer ignore. Several weeks later, another major storm hit the neighborhood. This time, the HOA's upgraded system handled the water properly. My yard remained clear, and the clubhouse stayed protected. My garden slowly came back after the earlier floods. The grass grew again, the soil dried, and the backyard finally felt normal. I had solved the problem without breaking a single rule. Karen eventually admitted that the HOA had underestimated the drainage problem. The shortcut they had used for years had pushed their responsibility onto my property. Now the neighborhood had a proper system instead. I never needed revenge. I simply protected my property, followed the law, and made the drainage system work properly. The next time it rained, the water went where it was supposed to, and my yard stayed dry. If you enjoyed this HOA story, like and subscribe for more dramatic HOA stories. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from?